So welcome back, welcome back. Welcome to you if you're joining us online. It's lovely to have your company this morning. We've got a very, very full session for you and lots still coming up later today. We'll be talking about trade policies and food sovereignty just after lunch. But what we're going to look at now in this particular session is what we sort of started talking about here with volatility and being aware of shocks and being resilient, because we're going to start to look now about being sustainable and competitive. So sustainable competitiveness when you have agriculture in the face of economic and also the environmental challenges. So really getting to the heart of some of those problems, issues, and hopefully solutions that the industry is looking for. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your moderator for this session, Anna Gumbau.
Thank you very much, Sasha, for the kind introduction, and welcome back, everyone. Hope you all got to enjoy this quick coffee break, because we have indeed a very packed session ahead on what I believe is a very exciting topic, the question of sustainable competitiveness. Can we be competitive and sustainable at the same time? Can we have it both? So I will not, considering the time that we have and the tight schedule that we have, I will keep my introduction here. Just for you to know, we're going to have quite a lot of time, hopefully, to get some questions from Slido. So I would already like to show once again the QR code for Slido. In case you are just joining us for the first time, remember to log in to slido.com and use the hashtag Agri-food Days. And we should have some good time for questions from your side with some excellent panelists that are going to be joining me here on stage. We're going to be starting with a keynote presentation that will set the scene and tell us a bit like, what's the stake in this conversation, in the transition towards sustainable agriculture and how to make it competitive. And then we will dive deep into the topic with a panel discussion with different stakeholders across the sector. So please join me in welcoming our first speaker, the Director for Environment and Natural Resources at the European Investment Bank, Nicola Pochettino. Welcome.
Good morning, dear ladies and gentlemen, and let me thank first the organizers of this very important event for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to illustrate to you how the European Investment Bank, which is the financing arm of the European Union, is helping this crucial sector of agri-food to tackle the challenges of today. I'll speak slowly because I understand that there are many translators, and I'll try to let them do their work properly. But let me just start with mentioning how we see the overall picture. Well, we recognize that agriculture is a complex and highly uncertain business. We did a study 2 years ago identifying the investment gaps in the sector. We saw that just for primary production, the annual gap is in Europe of around 62 billion euros. So whatever we are doing as EIB can help, but you will realize there's still a lot more to do. There is the intervention of the private sector that is needed. And what I'll try to illustrate here is how we can also attract the private sector in a more massive way to tackle these investment gaps. But why there are investment gaps is because there are market failures. The market doesn't work properly often. And also because there might be investment barriers. So through our journey this morning, I'll try to show you how we are seeing this problem and how we are addressing them. Should I use this? Oh, no, it's moving automatically. Okay, excellent. So let me start from telling you just a bit of what we do. First, the EIB adopts a value chain approach. So we finance all eligible investments across the entire value chain, from primary production, I mentioned before, so crops, livestock, downstream processing industries, logistics, infrastructure, recycling of material, research and innovation. Everything is also illustrated here, and you can see the weight of the different areas over the past 5 years. How much farming and forestry take the leading role, but also processing industry in both areas are definitely important and weight heavy. The lending volumes are about 5 billion euros per year, 80% inside the union and 20% outside the union on average. Of course, in addition to that, we have to consider our subsidiary, the European Investment Fund, that mostly provides guarantees to the sector, and that has reached similar, so compounded amounts during the same period, is 25 billion over the last 5 years, reaching up to 300,000 small and medium enterprises in the sector. But I mentioned the small and medium enterprises also because about 2/3 of the total of what we finance, we are financing it through intermediated lending. So we lend to banks that then on-lend to the farmers. The bank cannot, the EIB cannot reach directly the small cooperatives or individual farmers for lending. But we can contractually transfer the benefit of cheap loans to the final beneficiaries in the sector, so to the farmers, basically. Oops, sorry. About 60% of the contribution, and this is an important number, is dedicated of the direct lending, not the intermediated lending, which is more difficult to assess. But of the direct lending, about 60% goes to climate action and environmental sustainability, which are a priority for us, being the EU Climate Bank. And also, some 50% of what we do goes to cohesion regions within the Union. We can move to the next slide. I thought it was interesting just to show how we walk the talk and in practice what we do, is to give you a list, really by no means comprehensive, of our financing. Of course, what we do in the EU relates to direct support to the implementation of EU policies and strategies. We sustain productivity and competitiveness, for instance, through innovation. I just illustrate in the slide individual projects, for instance, dedicated to better nutrition or to lower carbon footprint or to plant-based production, but also energy and resource efficiency. We work on enhanced circularity. We support smart agriculture techniques. But we also want to attract and support young farmers and new farmers. And I will also illustrate our flagship project that has just been approved and announced yesterday by our president, Nadia Calvino, concerning a big envelope that we dedicate to European farmers this year. We facilitate business development in rural areas in line with the common agriculture policies. We support biodiversity through better management of forests. And of course, we want to improve the infrastructure. I'm thinking of water management and better irrigation, for instance. So the next slide illustrates the the flagship project that has been approved by our board of directors and announced yesterday by our president, it's about 3 billion euros, which represents a pan-European agriculture program for small and medium-sized businesses. This will be, of course, on lend to the final beneficiaries through intermediated lending, so through commercial banks that you will have in your countries. And it is the largest such financing package dedicated to the European agriculture, forestry, and fisheries in our group's history, the largest. It is coupled with advisory support wherever it's needed. It could be technical advisory or financial advisory. And through that, we expect to be able to attract private sector funds and support the banks that we work with in individual countries. These funds, of course, can later also be combined when possible, if possible, with grants from the EU or from national programs. And also to crowd in investments, because that's what we need. We need more private sector financiers. We are looking at innovative funding mechanisms. I will talk about some of those in the next slides. Mechanism that could help to de-risk. This is a key word everybody talks about, de-risking. But in practice, what we want is to reduce the cost, right? We want to reduce the cost of being a farmer and making this activity. Overall, we expect the fund from the 3 billion that we will put on the table, we expect them to mobilize some 8 billion euros during the coming years. And they focus on 3 key priorities, 3 key targets. First, support to young farmers. And in particular here, I would like to highlight that in line with the EU eligibilities, the bank, the EIB, wants to help young farmers to purchase land so that we can help to bring a new generation into the industry. The second, of course, we support green investments. We want to help farmers to adapt to the impact of climate change, not only to leave the smallest possible footprint on the environment, but to be protected from catastrophic events. And third, gender equality. I think this is a well-known issue. We need more women in the sector if we want to regenerate agriculture. But now I would pass to the next slide, where I would like to summarize how we see the challenges. As I said, agriculture is a complex and a highly uncertain business. It has 3 key challenges. The first is about the need for food security. The global food system is expected to provide safe and nutritious food to a population that will likely grow from the current nearly 8 billion to 10 billion by 2050. And let's not fool ourselves with the fact that maybe Europe will not grow that much. Agriculture is a global system. Food is a public good. Food security, sorry, is a public good. And everybody has a right to eat, to have access to nutritious food. The second problem is that food production is only one of the aspects. So food security is one of the aspects. The second aspect is the fact that this industry generates livelihood for the vast majority of the workers on Earth, not just in Europe. There are more than 600 million farms in the world. And you might think about how many households live on that. So the second challenge of the sector is to provide livelihood, jobs, and maintain them. And the third one, of course, we already spoke about it, is the environmental footprint on one side, so the relation with the environment. Agriculture occupies nearly 40% of the Earth's surface. Irrigation for agriculture uses nearly 70% of the global water available. And it contributes, of course, to greenhouse gas emission. On the other side of the picture, as I said before, we are seeing the increasing damages that climate change is causing to the sector, the increased uncertainty that is reflected in the activity. So the next slide is about how we want to address what is the rationale that moves the bank to work in the agriculture sector. So let me start from one point. Farming incomes should ideally be generated from markets. But as you know, markets don't always work properly. There are the so-called market failures. The economists have clear definition of those. There are millions of pages of literature on that. There are investment barriers. The fact that the market don't always work properly, is a reason for the existence of a public bank like the EIB. And that's where we need to act, where we can contribute. So what are these failures or these investment barriers that prevents the investment to be deployed as needed? But the first, allow me to say, is food security. So we need to provide food to a growing population, I said before. But food security is what the economists call a normative public good. It's a public good because everybody, as I said, and maybe I just simply quote what was said at the World Food Summit in '96. It says that food security exists when all people at all time have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy life. So we need to secure that. That's the first point. The second market failure that we see is the fact that the sector generates negative externalities, as we know, not always, probably increasingly less, but we need to work on that, and we need to tackle issues like biodiversity, environmental protection, and of course, greenhouse gas emissions. On the other hand, we want that the sector is resilient to all shocks, be it climate-related, or economic shocks, like price spikes, energy price spikes, fertilizers spikes, trade actions. We want to ensure that the farmers have access to funds to tackle these issues. But also, we want that, and this is another externality, it's a positive one, we want to generate innovation. Knowledge is considered a positive externality, often not taken into account in the balance sheets or in the income statements of the companies. We need to help increase productivity yield. This is fundamental. A lot of innovation is possible, and a lot of innovation is possible in the EU. So I gave some example before of RDI projects that we are financing, and we have also specific products for this type of projects, like venture debt, for instance, or equity investment that allow startup also to to be active and grow in their activities in the sector. And last but not least, farming needs to attract the young, the new farmers, needs to attract female farmers. And we see that the biggest failure here is the access to finance in general. And therefore, this is where we need to provide more capital at low cost, available for the new generations to enter into the sector. We need to make the sector attractive. We need to make rural areas attractive. So I have my last slide, and then I'll be happy to participate to the panel discussion, because I expect it to be very, very interesting. So we as the EIB group, we have put forward a set of proposed solutions. These were already part of the strategic dialogue on the future of agriculture in the EU, to which our Vice President, Gelsomina Vigliotti, participated during the first half of the year, which led to the report that has been submitted to President von der Leyen. We are developing a comprehensive action plan, which, in addition to the 3 billion euro envelope that I've just mentioned, also includes venture debt and private equity. I excuse myself for the technicalities. Maybe not everybody knows what venture debt is, but it's similar to venture capital, but it has the form of a loan, basically, but it's for startup companies. So venture debt and private equity programs to support innovative companies developing agriculture technologies. We have guarantee schemes, also extremely important, to make it easier for farmers to access credit and also other financial support. We want to provide broader support to agricultural organizations, including community irrigation projects, for instance, association for dams, or dike maintenance, or forestry groups. All the infrastructure-related investments that are absolutely functional to the proper working of the industry. We will have also, and this is pretty important, it's an area where our president has put a lot of attention, and we hope to come back to you with more clarity in the coming months. We want to give a fresh look at insurance and de-risking schemes, both at national and EU level, public and private, with public and private participation. We are doing a study at the moment that is trying to map the situation of the insurance, especially reinsurance industry, particularly for climate resilience. And we will provide the results probably in the first quarter of 2025, for sure in the first half of next year. And other part of rural infrastructure that I wanted to mention before also include, of course, roads or storage infrastructure, internet connection where needed, and education. We can provide, we can finance also training whenever it's needed. So, to sum up, I said the challenges for agriculture are huge. It needs to produce nutritious food for a growing population. It needs to maintain and create jobs and livelihood. And it has to do all this in the respect of the environment and under increasingly extreme climate conditions. So the challenges are huge, but so are the opportunities, to our mind. Together, I think we can build an agriculture sector that better resists climate change, that attracts more young people, and also women, of course, that produces more foods and goods in a sustainable manner, and it is more profitable for business and communities to rely on. There is much to be done, but we remain really, really optimistic. We are optimistic. We're not working alone. There's a concerted effort on the part of the European Commission, the EU member states, the private sector, to improve the ways that we support and protect agriculture and the bioeconomy. And as we begin this new institutional cycle with the new Commission that takes up office, you can definitely count on the European Investment Bank and the European Investment Fund to be at your side in this very, very important endeavor. And I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Nicola Pochettino for this first presentation. If I can ask you to sit in this second chair over here. Thanks a lot, and we will be able to continue discussing these findings with you, as well with our esteemed panelists, and get also your questions. So let me just introduce the panelists that will join me here on stage right now, which will continue the conversations on these challenges, but also on the huge opportunities indeed that we have with us. So first of all, I'm delighted to be welcoming the Deputy Director General at the European Commission's DG of Agriculture, Mihail Dumitru. Welcome. Again, have you over here. Next up with us is the Planning Manager and Member of the Board at Fibenol Latvia, Merili Palu. Welcome. So can have Merili over here. Also with us is the Director General at Food Drink Europe, Dirk Jacobs. Welcome. Over here, Dirk. And last but definitely not the least, we have a dairy farmer from Sweden, Hulda Wilschen. Welcome. And Hulda, you can sit just next to me. All right, so I think a lot to discuss, indeed, many challenges, also many opportunities in this quest for sustainable competitiveness. I think this is one of these buzzwords that we discuss a lot in the policy circles, and it seems that also it has a big importance for the farming sector as well. And I would actually start by hearing from you, Hulda, if you could talk to us a little bit about your farm in Sweden, your activities, how you are implementing sustainable practices. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, thank you. We have a modern milk production close to the Arctic Circle, and we have 150 cows, and we deliver the milk to Norrmejerier. It's the most northern cooperative in Sweden. It's a conventional production, but we have very high ambitions in environmental work. It's a family farm. We are 5 people working there. It's me, my husband, and his parents, and we also have 1 employed. And we are in the middle of a generation shift, you could say. And we have made a lot of investments the last 15 years. The biggest investment we made in 2010 and 2021, 2 new cow stables with milking robots, 2 of them, and a lot of comfort for the cows. We have increased the milk production from 300,000 liters a year from 2009 to 1.5 million liters a year, 2024. And it's first-class milk. We have more animals, but also higher production per cow, high production efficiency. That is one of our most important goals. And focus for us to make this result is animal welfare, breeding, we have Swedish red cattle, and high-quality grass silage. And as we see it, prevention, animal health care, and careful routine work gives us a production in now 13,000 kilo ECM per cow a year, and it's the important income. It also gives us low costs for vet service and extremely low use of medicine. And high milk production also gives us a very low climate footprint per liter milk and a better economy. And about the forage and the cropping, the grassland is most of the farmland we have. And the grassland is very important to produce a first-class fodder for the cows. And we have higher the yields during the years as a result of careful management and also lower the production costs. And investment there is like about water management, manure, machinery like a boomekramp, field mapping, GPS steering, and control traffic. And I would say good management and knowledge are the key to success here. And about results, economic growth is the result that we have, is the thing we have done the last years on our farm. And we have increased the milk production, as I said, and the meat. And it is an important goal for the Swedish food strategy. And a Swedish project financed by CAP shows us that actually our farm has one of the best economic results in the area compared to other dairy farms. And the economic results gives us a possibility to invest, of course, and also to hire labor, and gives us flexibility to do more things in life, such as focus on the family. And about environmental results, we also take part in a Swedish project, Focus on Nutrients, who follows the environmental benefits on the farms and gives us advisory, for example. And there we can see that our investment and high production efficiency gives us low environmental footprint as nutrient balance and climate footprint. And yeah, one of the biggest threats to biodiversity in our region is regrowth of farmland, actually. Norrbottens County has lost 31% of agricultural land since 1980 because of regrowing. And our farm contributes a living village for the people and others who lives in the area, such as birds, bees, and biodiversity in general. And I guess you want to know something about financial.
Yes, indeed. I mean, I think it's been very interesting to get to know the context and to see also the important results it has achieved. It seems like a win-win situation, achieving good economic results as well as lowering the carbon footprint. I was wondering also in terms of the financing, have there been like any particular challenges that you have found on the way? What can you tell us about that?
Well, we live next to the Arctic Circle, and it gives us a very special climate zone. And it's far away from the markets, and we also have high environmental ambitions in Sweden and quite strong laws. And that means that we have a lot of challenges, and it causes us higher production costs. And the market price does not compensate us for the work on the farm. And even if we have quite good economy in the area, most of the farms don't. And CAP support is very important for us. For example, investment aid from CAP are essential for us in the region, where the properties and land have a low value. We don't get investment aid for machinery in Sweden, but we get it for new cow stables, drain tile, and like the Bomek ramp I mentioned. And we also got it for a new grain silo for the cereal production. But most of the investments are self-financed and private banking. And they look not only nowadays on the value on the properties, also about the economic results in the company. It's a very big value for them. So it's really important.
Brilliant, very interesting. Thank you very much, Hulda. Now I would like to move to Dirk Jacobs. As representative of the food industry, I'm wondering, what is your role in when it comes to supporting, enhancing, promoting sustainable agricultural practices? Are there any specific examples that you can share with us?
Thank you very much. I have the honor to represent some 300,000 food and drink companies in Europe, ranging from global leaders, the big companies, to the SMEs. And the SMEs, in fact, make up 99% of our sector. And among those SMEs, 80% are micro enterprises. So these are really small companies. But all of them are deeply intertwined with European agriculture. And if you look at the figures, some 70% of what European farmers produce is being transformed into the products that we all love, from the French cheeses to the Irish whiskies to Polish pastries, but also safe, nutritious infant formula products, nutritious solutions that make their way all over the world. And this interdependence means also that we need to succeed together, farmers and food processors and manufacturers. Agriculture and food, I think that's also important to mention, are one of the few sectors that are still in the rural areas of Europe. We're located very closely to each other, and therefore also we provide for rural livelihoods. So if you take away a processing plant, or if you take away farmers in a region, that region is likely to suffer economically, socially. And I think we should be more aware of that. If you compare us to other economic sectors, they are mostly into the urbanized areas. We are staying in the rural areas. So the food industry cannot be competitive or sustainable or resilient. These are the buzzwords of today. Without a sustainable, competitive, and resilient farming sector. So that's very clear. But equally, we cannot be sustainable, or without the food industry, farmers will also not have a brighter future. So that means that we need to be strong and invest in our resilience if we want to keep the leading position that we have as Europe in the world. We are the largest exporter of agri-food products worldwide. We have been very resilient during COVID times, during the war. There have not been any shortages as such, but the pressures, and I think Nicola already referred to that, in terms of climate change are real, and we're seeing that. I take the example of a company here in Belgium that is processing vegetables into canned processed products. And they have seen since 2020 a 20% decrease of the inputs that they sort of process due to harvests that have gone wrong, due to volatility in the markets, and so this is real. And I think bringing agriculture and food together is extremely important, and that's why we also very much appreciate that President von der Leyen has decided to name the new title of Commissioner Hansen Agriculture and Food Commissioner, and not just agriculture. Now, sustainability is a precondition for resilience of our food systems. And I think there's, besides the environmental element of that, there's also an economic one. And if you link the two, then it becomes also quite visible. 60 to 70% of European soils are in such a bad state already today that it is going to be very difficult to do agriculture on it, to farm on it. And that brings a productivity loss, an agricultural productivity loss of 1.25 billion euros per year. So we're not only talking about environmental degradation, we're also talking about sort of a productivity problem, a yield problem that might appear as a consequence. So we are, as an industry, we are doing our own bit in our own sector, decarbonizing, making our production more resource efficient, avoiding loss and waste in the sector. But we're also supporting sustainable agriculture. So a lot of local companies work together with their local suppliers. There are long-term relationships that have already been established since a very long time. But also the larger companies, they take direct action, and you see that there is an increasing collaboration between companies and farmers to provide agronomical advice, to provide green premiums, so prices that are specifically for sustainability investments, to de-risk through loan sharing or risk sharing mechanisms from a financial point of view. So there are a lot of examples there where a lot is going on. We need to look at sustainability as a whole. So it's also about livelihoods, it's about health, it's about environment altogether. And we cannot do that alone. So I think collaboration there is absolutely important.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dirk. Now I'd like to move to Merili. If you could talk to us a little bit about Fibenol Latvia. It's been a company that has successfully implemented bioeconomy practices, and what's the story of public-private partnerships of your organization?
Yes, so a couple of words about what we do, since we have a quite diverse and also inclusive panel. The mission of Fibenol is defossilize material and chemical value chains. So these are particularly hard to abate industries. They still need carbon. They cannot be electrified. And how we do that, we provide bio-based materials. And we use woody biomass to produce them. It's a low-quality wood, so type of wood that traditionally has been used for energy, pulp, and paper. But with our technology, we can also make long-term materials out of that. So how we have progressed, we have already a demonstration plant, and this is in Estonia. So I'm actually representing Estonian and Latvian company of Fibenol. And how we got there, it was public partnership was indeed playing a huge role there. Our approach has been very collaborative from the beginning. But if I would have to mention the most game-changing one, then probably this was the funding from the EU, Bio-based Circular Europe, and this really helped to de-risk the project to scale up this technology to industrial demonstration scale. It's not only to provide de-risk funding, but also validation from EU that this technology is seen as something strategic and interest to the EU. But of course, we have many other research projects ongoing. Last time I checked, there were 12 international projects where indeed public entities are involved, from research to academia, but also industrial multinational companies. In addition, we see that the public sector has huge role in piloting projects to help to bring those solutions to market and help to build reference cases, for example, in road construction that we have done very successfully, not only with Estonian, but also with Swedish and Finnish transportation administrator. Then we have, for example, a project with Tartu, second largest city in Estonia, that is piloting our biodegradable bags. But of course, in the future, we see ourselves as a strong partner for all types of collaboration, to municipalities, to governments who want to move towards sustainable goals. We can collaborate on construction projects, infrastructure, by providing these new low footprint materials. And now when we are expanding and going to Latvia with our commercial scale plant, then we are also seeking collaboration there on many levels, and we have received very strong support from the Latvian government. We have signed memorandum of understanding with their ministries, and I hope that this collaborative approach will make things smoother for these innovations to ultimately scale up and reach to that necessary scale that you can actually deliver the impact that is looked for.
Thank you very much, Merili, for introducing us and also bringing an example of successful public-private partnerships. Now I'd like to move to Mihai Dumitru. As Deputy Director General at DG Agri, I think it would be great to hear from you what has been done recently in terms of the CAP to be promoting sustainability and sustainable practices in agriculture. What has changed in recent years, some of the changes you have enacted, and which success, which response do you see on it?
Thank you. First of all, I think if we have an example here of a young farmer from the Arctic Circle, I will join my commissioner statement that the CAP has delivered, because this is a good example. I have to say that the common agriculture policy through history has always adjusted to address the challenges in the European Union and to promote the EU farming model, which is a family farm model. And I am in this business since a very long time, so I know that one of the biggest, the most challenging elements when we produce or we prepare a new CAP reform was how to adjust this reform to be more fit for purpose. And sometimes we forget very quickly that we have done a lot of things in time, and every time when we have a new proposal, we have to adjust the instruments, the objectives to address these issues. And sustainability was one of the, competitiveness and competitive sustainability was one of the main elements of the latest reform, and probably we are going to look ahead on these aspects for the new one. I think we have done quite a lot of elements in the current ongoing CAP reform. From the three aspects of the sustainability. First of all, I'm looking to the income. I mean, recently, I think the strategic dialogue and also the political guidelines of the new commission mentioned that farmers should have a fair and sufficient income. And of course, the reality is that the income of the farmers, there is an income gap with the rest of the economy of 40%, and we try to cover this gap by different means. Also through public money, but also from the market. And we have looked into both ways to address this. I mean, if we look to the aggregated figures of the strategic plans of the member states, we have seen that 67% of the funds still goes for income support. And this is not coming, it's just a kind of a cash transfer. It is coming with a cost, because the farmers, they are supposed to do more. And in this period, I think we ask farmers to do a lot more. First of all, through regulation, through legal obligations, I think we have reinforced the conditionality. The conditionality are the elements based on which we deliver this money. And I think we have increased this conditionality quite a lot. In addition, we have introduced a lot of incentive, and we have allocated more money for the incentive part. I think I will only mention here the eco schemes, which is the new instrument we have introduced, which is an incentive, and I think these eco schemes cover quite an important part of the area in Europe, and farmers, they are entering in these eco schemes. This is also a source of additional income, but when they volunteer to do a lot more. And then I think there is also the investment. So we always finance investments in agriculture and the rural economy. I think it has been mentioned several times. Nicola reminded us the investment gap, and I think this investment gap is without quantifying the needs for the green and digital transition. I think it is overall investment gaps, and if we enter into more details, I think this will increase. And of course, we will not have enough public money to support investments. We have also to mobilize a lot of private money, and I think we have already a well-established relationship with the EIB group to try to mobilize more public money and more to involve more financial institutions in supporting this transition. And of course, we are trying to invest both into the hard investment, I will call it the capital investment, the needs for transformative investment, but also in soft investment, like delivering more knowledge, advice, research, solutions for method of production, which is going into the sustainability and the resilience. I think we are also doing a lot more in terms of risk and crisis management. I think this is an issue which comes very strongly in this discussion today, where we have to look further. I think Nicola mentioned the study on insurance and the risk management. And certainly with the intensification of the climate emergency and climate events, we need to better equip the common agriculture policy with instruments for risk management and crisis management. And this will be another component of the common agriculture policy. So I don't want to bring in figures here, but I think we can exemplify how the common agriculture policy has evolved to a more, let's say, sustainable farming policy. through different instruments. I will not hide that we have earmarked a lot more funds for supporting these new green practices. I think 97 billion euro for this period. They are allocated through different instruments of the Common Agriculture Policy to incentivize this new method of production. I think if we look only to the organic farming, of course, we try to bring more farmers to adopt this method of production. But of course, there are a lot more other methods of production we try to incentivize. And I will give here the example of agroforestry, the regenerative agriculture. And I will finish this answer by saying I have not met in the last, 10 years, any farmers in Europe which has not told me, I am doing something for climate and environment. I think everybody, and us as citizens, every day we are asking ourselves what we are doing to save our planet.
Thank you very much to Mihai Dumitru. I think it's indeed a very strong message indeed that we really care about the planet, and that we all really want to play our part in stopping, or at least slowing down climate change. I'm already getting a few questions from the audience, so I will mix a little bit my questions with those that I'm getting on Slido. So please keep these questions coming. And there is one that I find quite pertinent, because the topic of this discussion is sustainable competitiveness. And maybe this is one that maybe Mr. Pochettino could answer first, and then other panelists can chip in, which is, what is the definition of sustainable competitiveness? Which indicators can we actually take into account? What do you think?
It's not an easy question. Thank you for. I spoke a lot before. I hope I was staying more quiet now. But no, let me answer in this way. We need. I definitely agree with the fact that we need to be able to measure our success. Otherwise, we cannot prove. Also, if we don't measure something, as you know, this is old management theory. Whatever we cannot measure, we cannot manage either. So the idea of introducing KPIs, key performance indicators, to measure the success of our policies or of our investment, it's absolutely relevant. At the EIB, we have worked a lot exactly on this. We have worked a lot in having criteria that combine with the financial essential criteria that are used for the banking sector. So, capital consumption, probability of default, etc. On one side, we have these. On the other side, we measure the impact and additionality of our investments. So, exactly to go in the direction of answering how we measure sustainability and sustainable competitiveness, we have introduced already years ago a system of assessment of our value added that was also adopted by the FC in the FC scoreboard. I mean, this was already like a blueprint at the time. We have further developed it in 2020, introducing the concept of the AIM, Additionality and Impact Measurement Tool. In this tool, we approach whatever we do using three different levels of assessment. First, what we called the impact, which is an identification, a measurement of the depth of the failure. So when it comes to sustainability, we need to see whether there is a failure in the market in terms of sustainability, and we need to measure it, and the proxy that measures it is the investment gap. So by measuring the investment gap, we sort of say how deep is the failure in the market. So that's the first thing. So when it comes to competitiveness or sustainability, when we see that there are gaps, we also associate it with a priority to operate in the sector. And that's the first point. There is a second point. Once we have identified the areas where a public bank should intervene, but this can be used for all sectors and all banks, then we need to see what is the investment that is the best to tackle that specific failure. Because we have proposed several projects, and we need to see which project is the best. And there we start to break it down and have sub-indicators. We want to see what is the economic benefit of the project, whether there is environmental and social impact that is higher or lower, whether there is job creation. So all these elements contribute to the scoring that is presented to our board of directors to decide whether we should give priority to this project. And this helps to rank the projects and combine this information with the financial information about, for example, capital consumption, as I was mentioning before. And the last criterion is about how we can contribute. So we have the failure in the market. Where is the sector where we should intervene the most? What is the best project that tackles that failure? And third, what is the best instrument that we can use to tackle the issue? Is it a simple, plain vanilla loan? Or should we go for more complex, possibly blended instrument? Should we provide technical assistance to the project? All these elements are valued in a quantitative way, although indicators to decide whether the project is sustainable, is competitive, and whether we can prioritize it. I hope that this gives a little picture of what we do.
Indeed, indeed. Thanks a lot, Mr. Pochettino. Now I believe Hulda would want to respond.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that sustainability, when we talk about it, we really have to see the three dimensions together: the social part, the environmental part, and the economic part. And as a farmer, I think that a strong company that can be strong even in the future is a competitive company, and also sustainable, connected to the sustainability. And I cannot only see my own company in singularis, because the companies are connected to each other and we are independent in each other. And in our region, we really need to see more cows and more farms. So for us, it has been a lot of hard work to do this expand that we have done and to expand the production. But we really need to see more cows and more dairy farms in the north part of Sweden, because we have lost so many during the years. And it's not only to increase the production, it's also to have enough farmers and humans in the sectors in the north to stabilize the infrastructure around the farms. So the companies itself need to be strong, and the sector has to be strong to be sustainable and competitive for the future. And I mean that it's absolutely possible to build a successful company next to the Arctic Circle, but we need to be more, and we actually have good examples with farmers from Netherlands, Switzerland, and Germany who have moved up and started their farms up in the north part of Sweden. And we are very glad that they are arriving.
Wonderful. Any more reactions? Yeah.
Yeah, if I may. I think one dimension of competitiveness that we have not heard a lot about over the last 2 days is the global dimension. And I haven't heard the Draghi report mentioned here in the conversations yesterday and also not today. And it's true that in the Draghi report on the state of competitiveness in Europe, agriculture and food is sort of relatively minor, and there's a minor reference, and that doesn't do justice to the size of the sector that we are in the geopolitical context as well. And so if you compare us to the US or to China in economic terms, our competitiveness is going down. We have a financing gap that was already mentioned, 67.5 billion euros. We have estimated that at Food Drink Europe that to make the transition to sustainable agriculture, to help farmers, there's a need for at least 28 to 35 billion euros only for the first year. Okay. We heard about the EIB package, which is very generous and very welcome, obviously, but that is 3 billion. And Draghi's report is talking about 800 billion for the green and digital transition. So put those numbers all in a sequence, and you see that actually we need a lot more investment. In the previous Commission term, we were talking about sustainable food systems, but without any additional budget to it. The CAP, as you say, has part of the greening in there, but that is nearly not enough. So I think we need to have an elevated discussion about financing and investment. I think the vision on agriculture and food, in that sense, is an opportunity. Maybe it's time to set up an agri-food investment forum where we bring public and private actors together and have a think about, okay, how can we mobilize that investment? Because without it, I fear that in 5 or 10 years' time, we will be still having this kind of discussion without having any progress. And in the meantime, other regions in the world are bypassing us. The US is investing 3 times more equity investment in the food and drink agri-food industry than here in Europe. Innovation is going elsewhere, outside of Europe, to Asia or to other places because of administrative burdens, of regulatory burdens. So we also need to talk about simplification. We need to also talk about making the access to finance for the SMEs and for the farmers easier. There were 67.5 billion of unmet loans. It's not because the farmers or the SMEs don't want to use those loans, but it's because they did not know how to get it and they did not comply with the criteria. So we need to make that simpler. So I think the vision on agriculture and food is our place where hopefully we can have that conversation. And in fact, the strategic dialogue in which I had the pleasure to take part in recognizes that we need to have a finance chapter. And maybe we should even go further and have the results of the Draghi report and also of the new industrial deal integrated in that vision on agriculture and food.
Thank you very much. Maybe I would like to first turn to Mr. Dumitru in following up on this topic, because sustainable competitiveness is going to be, or is, one of the focuses of the newly elected, the new European Commission that just took office. So you were mentioning before, like, all the reforms that have been done, like, up until now. I'm wondering, like, what's the way forward? How this vision of sustainable competitiveness will be implemented moving forward in the European Commission's own agricultural policies?
Well, this is also related to your previous question, because I think, first of all, sustainable competitiveness, we do not have a common definition. Everybody defines it in its own way. And everybody is trying to do things for sustainability in its own way. And this is why I think, and then the issue of measuring, how you measure it. And I think yesterday, my Director General and in the other panels, there were a lot of discussion that we are not good in measuring this, which means that we do not have yet a kind of a harmonized view what is sustainable competitiveness alongside the value chain. I think the first time, and the novelty, this also comes very strongly out of the strategic dialogue, was a whole value chain approach. We have to sit together to design together the measure we want to take, and then try to measure this and demonstrate. I think we're talking about this benchmarking system, where we would like that first of all, the actions, they are coordinated along the value chains, that we got the maximum, let's say, aggregated impact along the value chain. And what one actor is doing, it is then wasted in the next step of the value chain because of the other actions which are not going in the same direction. So I think we are going to work quite a lot on better definition, on coordinating the actions of different actors, and on measuring. Then also measuring in the policy they deliver, because one of the big criticisms now is you spend a lot of money, where are the results? And I think we have to reach this point when we agree how to measure, we agree to measure and to see the impact, and then we can adjust the instruments of the policy in such a way that you demonstrate that we deliver better and we can quantify this measurement. I think we are going to work on this approach, and I think this will be also one of the main element of the next work on the vision and of the next common agriculture policy. We have to take all these elements into consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dumitru. And Marilee, then from your perspective, then how do you think the taking sustainable action and being involved in sustainability practices is supporting the competitiveness of fibinol, and what do you think that policymakers, that financial institutions can do for you to better support the adaptation of the adoption of such practices?
First of all, I would say that these two concepts, competitiveness and sustainability, should not be seen inherently in conflict. I believe that, for example, to switch to circular economy, to renewable resources, is actually essential for long-term competitiveness. But what I would even start from what industry can do before I say what we believe policymakers could do. So what industry can do, we can innovate, we can develop new technologies, we can seek for ways how to make our production more resource efficient. This will also increase the competitiveness. And in long term, this will drive down the cost, especially if it can reduce the dependence on imported fossil feedstock and therefore dependence on third countries. But how can policymakers help along? Well, we also need to think about the consumer. For example, a consumer who wants to switch to those more sustainable products. We should make it as simple as possible for them to navigate the products, have some sort of clear labeling, have a simplified way how to make those choices. Another example that we already have been experiencing is public sector that can really set an example in public procurements, for example. So in road construction, public sector is a very important customer. 65 to 85% of roads are ordered by public sector. And if they can set example how this sustainability criteria is implemented there, it wouldn't be just cost-based. And when I say cost-based, then is it even comparable if we don't count in the externalities? Externalities, I mean the cost of fossil materials that actually do have a hidden cost, but as long as we are not accounting for it, then it is socialized. It's paid by all of us, but it's not shown on the product price. Then the scale-up is definitely a key challenge as well if you innovate and develop new technologies. Innovation is often easy to do in Europe. There's a lot of funding available as well to support it. But if you really want to go on industrial scale and commercial scale, then the resources seem to be more available in US or China or other countries. And if you do something innovative, and in industry it's a capital-intensive investment, then it also means high risk. And we really need private capital to do that, but there are a lot of things you can do. You can buy nice things, you can invest in many other assets. But the industry means that this has to be a very patient capital. So in terms of scale-up, indeed, some de-risk instruments should be used to keep this innovation in Europe.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Merili. We have just about 10 minutes left for this discussion, and I have plenty of questions from the audience. So I'll see how many of them we can answer. Maybe I'll try to get at least one speaker to answer each question and see how many of them we can cover. There is one that I believe that is stemming from the presentation of Nicola Pochettino. And it says, it's the most voted question on Slido. So it says, will cheap loans to young and new farmers not just lead to more debt for the new farmer and benefit the old farmer selling the farm by increasing the price on the assets sold? Would it be better to pay a subsidy to the old farmer if sold to the young one, I guess? It just get cut off. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, the objective of a public bank is to act where the market doesn't work. This is what the message I was trying to pass before. We need to be able to reduce the cost of capital. That's a priority if we want to have more investment and riskier investment done. There are different solutions. Of course, if you're looking simply at what I would consider the traditional product of a bank, which is a loan, yes, this will allow simply the debt to ramp up, to increase. But there are different solutions. We have different type of products that could help all industries, and specifically the agriculture industry, to develop and take on more debt in a way that it is not necessarily bearing on the shoulders of the promoter of the project. What am I referring to, for instance, is the use of blended products. Now, what does it mean, blending? In this case, it means that we can take the traditional financing, the funds that need to be remunerated. We are a non-for-profit institution, but we are not for losses either. Otherwise, the model of the EIB is not sustainable. So the capital that we borrow on the market and then we on-lend has to be repaid in a way that is sustainable financially. So we need to maintain our AAA so that we can borrow cheap money and we can on-lend cheap. But if the problem is the burden on the balance sheet of the company, then we might opt to blend this money if a blending is possible, if a blending is available. Means if, for example, there are grants that come from another source, let's say the Commission, for instance, the EFRD, we have done that. We can blend and reduce the cost of this debt. We can also, and another product, it's absolutely relevant in this case, we can also use guarantees. There are tools proposed by the Commission, offered by the Commission, such as InvestEU, Innofin for innovation, and others that would allow a riskier project that would have been particularly risky or non-bankable to happen because these guarantees are used at low cost and blended with the money that come from an organization like the EIB. So what I'm saying is, as I said, I was optimistic. I'm optimistic. So we have different solutions. There are financial instruments that can be designed to help tackle all the difficult situation. What we want in return, though, is a project, is an investment that is sustainable, competitive, and that leads to value added to society. Thanks.
Thanks a lot for answering to this question. The next one that I have is says, how could investment into healthy, sustainable food be boosted to strengthen sustainable competitiveness? I think probably Dirk will be best positioned to answer this question.
Yes, of course. So I think the more space there is for companies, for farmers, for other actors in the food chain to invest, the more we can follow the sustainability ambitions that we have set out. And I think it's very clear that we want to, that we have a vision that we are able to feed the world with nutritious products, with less environmental degradation and all of that. The challenge that we have today is that the economic financial situation for many companies, many farmers, is not such that they have a lot of space for that investment. So I think the first step that we need to take is to, and that's particularly for policymakers, is to help us clearing that space and have a more attractive investment environment. And you can do that by simplification, making it easier to have access to finance, but also by simplifying rules where needed. It's not to give up on regulations per se, but sometimes we get the complaints from our members that the rules are too complex, they're not aligned, they're not coherent. So there's a lot of space in the agri-food policy world where improvements can be made. But it's also by bringing together public and private actors. And there are some very good examples of where this is working. In France, there's a project, l'agriculture du vivant, which is something that brings together farmers, companies, food and drink companies, the water agencies, banks, to really at a local level see what can be done to improve environmental objectives, health objectives, but also the livelihoods, like that everyone gets a fair share of the return on investment. And I think these are the kind of models that we need to also scale up. So just to answer, I think it's freeing up that investment space that we now so desperately need, and that can help us in moving into a healthier, more sustainable environment.
Thank you very much. Now, we are running out of time, unfortunately, so I would maybe like to take advantage of this last couple of minutes to ask for Mr. Dumitru for a final sort of take from this discussion. What do you get out of it?
Well, thank you very much for giving me this possibility now to conclude. I think it's very important that, as I said, we look together along the value chain and make all these actors working together. For the policymakers, I think we are already in this philosophy. I think we all have to find the best solutions. I think it has been mentioned several times here that we have to better look to the three different instruments: regulation, incentive, and investment. I think from investment, we have developed over the years a very strong collaboration with the EIB group. And you mentioned about the blending. I think we have moved quite a lot out of only the grant philosophy into grant, loans, guarantees, equities, and try to mix them up. I think we need to mobilize all the financial resources, public, private, and we also have to look to all the sources of income to make our farming, but also the whole value chain competitive and sustainable. And only by looking to all these elements into an integrated way, we will succeed. And I'm pretty confident that the work ahead of us, we are working in this very good collaborative way, which it has been demonstrated by the strategic dialogue that it can happen. And I am confident that we can continue this very good example. Thank you.
Indeed, so collaboration, mobilizing all resources to once again face these huge challenges, but also harness the many opportunities that that sustainable agriculture brings to us. So it's been a really insightful conversation, and we could have gone in depth in so many other questions that we got from the audience, but I'm afraid we'll have to stop here. If I can ask for a big round of applause for our panelists who've done a great job today. Thank you very much to all of you. And now I hand over back to our MC, Sasha.
Anna, thank you very much. Thank you. Really, really interesting. I'd love to see some photos of the farm just outside the Arctic Circle. Sounds quite amazing. We're going to break for lunch now. So if you're watching us online, we're actually going to be back here starting again at 2 o'clock. It's just coming up to 12:30 here in Brussels, so 2 o'clock here. Ladies and gentlemen, just before you all dash for lunch, let me just tell you that there are lots of different lunch stations. So if you were queuing for a while yesterday, just do walk around because there are lots of different tables where the same lunch is. It's also on the ground floor as well. We have more DG Agri colleagues to talk through the MTO report. So we have from the sectors wine, olive oil, macroeconomic, dairy and meat. They're all available over lunch as well. We're going to start back in the room at 2 o'clock. We've got 2 fabulous sessions for you later. We're talking about food sovereignty first, but also our very first research and innovation section, the very first one that's dedicated purely to research and innovation, so that's later. So, ladies and gentlemen, have a good break, and we'll see you back in the room, back here online as well, at 2 o'clock. Thank you.